Okay, we are in the Maamar Matza, page 220. Let's read learn the Kitzer to refresh our memory. We learned in the previous chapter, Yevaya the Yira Bo Marichuk. How does one attain Yira, awe and fear for HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Through the notion of distance. He gave us two examples. One is when one meditates and reflects upon the virtue, the mala of a chochem, of a real wise person, or Gdulas HaMelech, the greatness of a king, that humbles you. That's one nakuda. When we spend time on reflecting on how Hashem is awesome, we call that Hillel Hafloas, Gedulas, or Ein Sof. Hafloas is from the word Pella, Niflaot. In Chasidus, Chabad, it has a particular meaning when you use that word. When you say that the hisbonenus should be in the haflo of God, there is a hisbonenus which is called in the hislapshut of Hashem, the way Hashem invests himself in the world, also known as memali kol almin, which you've heard, Hashem pervades the world. That's one type of meditation that leads to support existence and to understand that the purpose of existence is Hashem. But that meditation accepts already from the very beginning that the world is in existence, I'm important, the world's important, however, it has a higher purpose. That's the meditation that comes from Hislapshus. Then there's another meditation called Haflo. Haflo means totally removed, separate. Why? Because Hashem is in a different category. And so the mashal that he gives to explain this, who's read me? Who's put on your please put on your mute, whoever read me is. Because there's a lot of noise. Put the mute on, and if you need to talk, hit the space bar. And so the meditation is in the haflos of Eirin Saf Baruch Hu. All the worlds, the upper worlds, the lower worlds, all the great experiences are merely a glimpse. We call that a ha'ora, or in this language, hoidoi, his splendor. It's not he himself. And by the way, it says, me hoidoi shel shmoi. There is Hashem, there is the name of Hashem, shmoi, and there is hoidoi shel shmoi. That's already a second ha'ora of the Ein Sof. We call this in Chasidus ha'ora de ha'ora. Right? There's a ha'ora, an emanation, and there's an emanation of an emanation. I would think that when he says here, the connection, the creation of worlds, be they Olam Yoinim, Olam Tachtoinim, upper worlds, lower worlds, are merely but just a glimpse. Nevertheless, the holiness, the sanctity of Hashem's name is like the sanctity of the essence. You see, this point, these 4 words, I don't recall from the paragraph. Here is another example, Shmuel, and everyone else, that sometimes in the Kitzer, which the previous Rebbe himself wrote, the Kitzer is not just a synopsis because he had nothing to do and he wants us to understand, so he made a synopsis. But the Kitzer has to be learned, really. And here's an example, because Ukdusha Shmoi, Kikdusha Satzmusoi, I don't believe you'll find that wording and even that idea in the previous chapter. But the Rebbe inserts it over here. And why is he saying this? And possibly, because he doesn't want you to feel bereft and empty. And if the world is only merely a glimpse of God, 1 second. But really, it's not just a glimpse, it's a glimpse of a glimpse. Then who cares? Then what, big deal. So the Rebbe says, Ukdusha Shmoi, Kikdusha Satzmusoi. The holiness of Hashem's name, i.e. the emanation, is as holy as the essence himself. Did someone want to ask a question? Someone raised their hand.
No, it's okay. Just a hand.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay. V'nimtza lemato k'moy l'maylo. And Hashem finds himself below as he is above. So when we meditate on all this, Tigdal Hayira, our awe for Hashem, will be heightened l'kayim Teiro mitzvahs, to fulfill Teiro mitzvahs, b'kabolas oil malchus shemayim, by accepting the yoke of Hashem upon herself. He continues. What else did we discuss in the previous chapter? So he continues. His baininus magdeles es hamida umarchivosa. Meditation, his bonanut, reflection, heightens, magdeles for the godol, makes greater the midah, the emotion, umarchivosa from the word harchava, merchav, and broadens it. If you want to feel more emotional and healthy emotions, you have to invest in his bonanus. There's no way around it. Otherwise, it's a fake emotion, or it's not, or at least it's not the ultimate of the emotion. Even if it's not a fake, it's a, you really genuinely mean it. But if you don't invest in his bonanus to fuel, then the car starts going, it can't go, right? It's like there's no gas in there. But you're trying to be emotional, and you want to serve Hashem with ava, with real feeling of love. However, that you didn't take the time to be misboinen, so the misboinenness doesn't fuel the emotion. That's what he says. V'yazbir. He explains, Hef l'sheiledus hamidus b'mila di alma, lo'iledus hamidus b'mila d'shmaya. The difference between the development of the emotions in worldly matters to the development of the midos in heavenly matters. And which component of the mind is responsible for the development in its fullest form? It's das, the component of concentration. Shehu iskashrus hergish vasmada. That causes a constant three things. Remember, his kashrut, 1, connecting, hergish, 2, feeling, vahasmada, and diligence, effort. It should be constant. So in order for there to be, and this is an answer to why we lack sometimes the emotional attachment, even though we spend time studying and meditating on something, the answer is because you only reached Chochmah and Bina. You didn't come to a place within yourself, not yet, which is Das. Okay, let's continue now, chapter Dalet, on page 220. Anyway, it should be Dalet in the Maamar that you have too. This is what we mean, that the development of the emotions of love and awe in the heart, it's through the comprehension of the mind, and specifically using meditation, reflection. And more specifically, v'ayidei das, through das, concentration, shupnimius hamidus, we call das the inner mode of the emotions. The Zohar HaKadosh calls it Maftecha the Cholil Shis, the key that includes all six. If you want to unlock all six midos of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, you want to have endurance, which is right. Netzach is endurance. You have to unlock, you have to use Das, because Das has the key to unlock all the six midas. As explained in the Zohar. So also with Tiferes. Tiferes normally is translated as beauty, right? Another word that's interchangeable is charisma. Something that's charismatic. Someone that's charismatic has a certain charm and beauty to himself. It's the happiness of the heart, Hashem, because of the beauty of God, and the splendor of His honor, of His, his Gaono means His honor, like. Shebo Gamkein al Yidei His Beinenus Dafke. How do we come to feel that Hashem is so wonderful, so special? He says it comes through his Beinenus because of the Tferes Gdula Baruch Hu, meditating on the preciousness and the beauty of the infinity of the Ein Sof. V'nikra b'Zohar, specifically we find in the Zohar a term that denotes this idea. Quote, Listakola bikora de malka, to gaze at the dearness, the preciousness of the king. Ukubashikosov melech biyofyoi techazen einecho. Your eyes should see the king in his beauty. You don't want to see a king not in his beauty. They say the story of Sidney Hecht, Sholem Hecht, who owns Hecht's bookstore on the corner of Avenue Y and Coney Island Avenue in Brooklyn. And he's the youngest of the brothers. He's today pretty much a 90-year-old man, Zayn Gesund. He's the only one of the six Hecht brothers that's still alive. So they all had a close relationship to the Rebbe from the 1940s. So they say that the Rebbe once told him, you could come to me anytime, you don't need an appointment. Because, from 1951, or when the Rebbe became Rebbe, Rabbi Chadakov, the secretary, started to set up appointments. You just couldn't come in every time and knock on the door and go in when you want. It used to be otherwise. But when he took the responsibility, Rabbi Chadakov put his foot down and he made you make an appointment, and he wouldn't give you always an appointment when you wanted, and sometimes you could wait a few months for an appointment. Anyway, but Sidney Hecht or Sholem Hecht, the Rebbe, there were a few people that the Rebbe, they say 3 people, the Rebbe said to them, they can come to him at any time, they just have to knock on a door, and if he's available, he'll open the door for them. So he once was speaking to another brother of his, the known J.J. Hecht, Yaakov Yehuda Hecht, who probably was more known in the world than Shalom because of his leadership role in the National Council of the Furtherance of Jewish Committee, i.e. Release Time, where he started for the Lubavitch, and he had YU and Chaim Berlin and Torah V'das all involved in the 1945 and on in taking children out and teaching them about Torah. It was called 1 hour on Wednesdays, Released Time. So J.J. Hecht. So Sholem, his brother, was bragging. He says, look, you have an organization and you're part of the Chabad organization and all that, and you need an appointment to go in to see the Rebbe. And I don't. I'm a regular guy, and I don't. So he said to him, I don't want such a privilege, because the Rebbe, this is after he became, is my Rebbe. I want to see him not in the short sleeves. I want to see him as a Rebbe, because a king has to be seen in his beauty. If a king is seen in his ordinary clothing, except for the month of Elul, which is a different situation, it takes away from the status of the king. So he told his brother, to me, the fact that the Rebbe gave you permission to come to him whenever he wants is not a big deal. In fact, I don't want it. That's not what, the Rebbe is a tzaddik. I'm taking him as a tzaddik. So the reverence, the tzaddik position requires a certain reverence. And this pasuk, Melech b'yofyoi techzen einecho, is a source pasuk for this concept. And it's not just with a Rebbe, it's also in other situations. The king, if a king is king, you have to see him in his beauty. I'll give you another example. There's a picture of 5 of the Lubavitcher Rebbes. We don't have a picture of the second Lubavitcher Rebbe and the 4th Lubavitcher Rebbe. Now, the Reb Dov Ber, the son of the Alter Rebbe, and Reb Shmuel, the Rebbe Marash. So, as far as we know, there's no picture of the second Rebbe. But we know there is a picture of the 4th Rebbe. There is a picture. But it was never publicized. And why was... One second. Why wasn't that picture publicized? I publicized a picture in my Sefer, but that's not the same picture as the picture that the previous Rebbe had, and Rabbi Garari's son-in-law had, and I'm sure the Rebbe had. Why? Because they say on that picture, the Rebbe Marash looks very unhealthy, for whatever the condition is. And it doesn't look nice, and they felt it's not appropriate to show a picture of a tzaddik in that condition. The picture I publicized in my Chabad Portraits, Volume 2, I believe, was another picture that a great-grandchild, Ginsburg, had, and he sent it to an Israeli newspaper, and I got a copy of it, and it's a nice picture, and maybe it's a drawing, so you know what I'm saying. But what's my point? Melech b'yofyei techzen einecho. And this is an overall issue. There were Rebbes, I don't want to say names, but there were Rebbes before the war who didn't have a beard. Why? Because the Nazis, Yimach Shemam. Of course they had a beard. They took off their beard. Is it appropriate to go and publicize today pictures of the same people who became Rebbes and had communities or rabbis and No. For whatever reason, to save themselves, whatever, it's not my business, not our business. So if you go and publicize it, you're doing a very bad thing. It's not right. Or let's say Rabbonim and Tzaddikim who didn't have a yarmulke for their passport picture or for whatever else. So you should go and publicize that. It's totally wrong. It's not right. Melech b'yofyei techzen einecho. We know people aren't stupid. People who learned and read know what the situation is. But the Chazal, based on this pasuk, Melech b'yofyei techzen einecho, the king in his beauty, your eyes shall see. You don't have to rub it in. So I took a few minutes just to give you the overall idea that there is sources in Torah and in the writings of Torah to support the idea, because the academics, this is a very big criticism by the academics, where they basically say that, basically most the recording of history by from people is hagiography. Hagiography means it's bubble-mices, it's baloney. They make up stories. And my argument to them, in various things that I've written and discussions is, it's not that we don't know, but we just don't have to publicize everything. There's a balance. So, and Melech b'yofyei techzen einecho. Let's go further.
By the way, what's the reason why there was never a picture taken of the Mittler Rebbe?
I don't know. No, the Alter Rebbe's picture is an artist's drawing. There were no cameras then. Or maybe it's a drawing. So the Alter Rebbe, I think, Shmuel, right? The picture, the drawing of the Alter Rebbe was when it was in jail, or isn't there a story behind that picture? I believe an artist.
Right?
What?
There's a famous artist, I think, who drew the Alter Rebbe.
Right. So Yoni, the artist wasn't around. What the Mittler Rebbe was just another moment. You should know, until of recent, a Rebbe, a Rav that was worth his money would hate people drawing pictures of them. They would run a mile away. And the same thing with recordings. I mean, we're in a different place in our life today, Baruch Hashem, but I had to hide. This is in 1983. I had to hide a mic that the Chabad Communication Center gave me to record Rabbi Yoel Kahn teaching us Chasidus, because people wanted to hear his shiurim in Chasidus, and if he saw the mic, he wouldn't teach. Because what are you taping me? Who am I, So I had to hide it in my book binding, right over here. That's what I said. He sat here, I sat right across him. Less than 6 feet of social distancing, and we were learning. They had 50, 60 guys in the room, and I put the mic, a little mic. They bought me such a little mic. I slipped it through the binding area here to the top here, and I had the book in front of me, and he didn't notice. And that's how today hundreds and hundreds of students are listening to those classes because of the mic that I had in my sefer. But I'm just showing you how.
Espionage.
What? What'd you say?
Your career in espionage.
You're right. No, but I'm just. Yoni asked about pictures. That whole idea of pictures and recordings and tapes by someone that was really a Talmud Chacham and a Rav, a Rebbe, whatever, Rosh Hashiva. I mean, are you kidding? Another. Since you mentioned it, I have to say it. 25 years ago, 1988, 89, Reb Mendel Futterfass and Rabbi Reichik were in my house in Marin County, right? I was on Shlichus in Marin County, and they were there for one night. I've told you that story. So I bought, for my family, I bought a large camcorder, Sears, these large ones, like this big, and I have, Baruch Hashem, so many videos from the children. They were young because of that camp, but it was a big piece. Reb Mendel sitting at the table, like 6 a.m, I come in, I set up the camera in front of his face. He went ballistic. He said in Yiddish, Nemes Havek, remove it. And I said to him, Uncle, I'm not taking it away. So he couldn't believe the chutzpah I had, And so he says, Favos nicht, why not? So I say, because I want my children in 20 years from now to see a real Yid. So he says to me, why isn't the Rebbe enough? I said, a Rebbe is a Rebbe, and a Chassid is a Chassid. And I did not take it away, and because of that, just this Friday, they publicized 1.5 minutes of that clip, of that video, to thousands of people, how he speaks about what the Rebbe Rashab told his friend, that when you can't daven a minyan, try to daven with 3 people. The point is, that sometimes you have to have chutzpah. And the Rebbe Rashab said this himself, or the Tzemach Tzedek, I remember Tzemach Tzedek, in Lubavitch, like in all the towns, everything was built out of wood, the little huts and the little homes, and there were many fires. So once there was a major fire, and a lot of writings of Chasidus was burnt, and the Rebbe turned to his shamash and he said, why didn't you steal my writings? But he said, Rebbe, you told us we shouldn't touch them. They're sacred, and you need permission to publicize them. He said, you're such a fool. It's called a Hasidic Geneva, a Hasidic Geneva, a Hasidic thievery, Sometimes you got to use your seichel and understand that for the long term it's better. So anyway, all of this.
It was even more serious. They were told they would be put in chayrim if they took those Maamorim.
Correct.
He said, but when you told us to be chayrim, and he says, "Where's your Mesiras Nefesh for Chasidus?"
Yes.
Where's your Mesiras?
Thank you. That's.
Rabbi, where can we see the Reb Futterfass footage? Where can we see it?
Well, whatever I have, I could, send it over to you. It's
Yeah, I would love it. appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. But I think today on YouTube they stole it from me. I publicized, but I'm Michael them today already. Everyone should benefit. I think if you type in Reb Mendel Futterfuss on YouTube, you should be able to. I mean, I had 2 hours worth, and you see the way he davens, the way Rabbi Reichik, I and him daven. And here, Rabbi Reichik and him are senior people, and I'm a young man with a red beard. It's very interesting. And then he gives me criticism and constructive criticism. It's a very interesting. Here's this Russian Jew who sat in prison for 9 years. Talking to this young shliach that the Lubavitcher Rebbe sent to Heathenville, Marin County. Sitting in your backyards and smoking dope. As it was depicted in the 1970 movie of Marin County, which you probably heard of, or you didn't hear of. Maybe you don't need to hear about it anyway. So it was just a very interesting dialogue that goes on there, and so there's different parts, and we talk about Fabring, and it's a very interesting piece. Okay, let's go further because we can get carried away here. Let's go further. So he says, "V'yadua the einayim heim b'chinas chochma." Since it says in the pasuk, "Melech b'yofyoi techzen einecha," a king in his beauty it should be seen with the eyes. Einecha, says the Rebbe, v'yadua, it's known, the einayim heim b'chinas chochma. The eyes represent chochma, wisdom. And this is what the verse really means. Use your chochma to meditate and reflect on the dearness and the preciousness of the king. Shehu, his beinanus, bigdula, saying of Baruch Hu. This is to reflect on the greatness and awesomeness of Hashem. How Hashem enlivens and creates worlds, adin ketz, adin tachlas, adam fanaidim. How he permeates the worlds, and surrounds the worlds, because he is bein and bidi beilumis. And when a person will take time to meditate on the multitude of worlds and creatures that were created, as we just said in your davening earlier this morning, Morabu Masecha, a multitude are these your actions. This refers to the inanimate, the vegetative, and the living, and the speaking, and the species. Each one has a multitude of variations within its domain. And more specifically, when you meditate on the supernal creations, Shem HaShomayim, referring to the heaven, V'chol Tzavam, and all of its hosts. Shal Zeh Nemar, Mo Gadlu Masecha, right? So we have two things. Boaz, we have Mo Rabu Masecha, and we have Mo Gadlu Masecha. So Mo Gadlu Masecha refers to the Tzva HaShomayim, the heavenly hosts. How great are your actions of God. These are what we call to the great creations. What are they? Hagalgalim, the stars, the Shemesh, the Yareach, the sun, the moon, the Kechovim, stars Galgalim are the orbit, sorry. So to Malochim, Elyenim, Oifanim, Chayis, V'srofim. So too we have three groups of angels. One's called the Ophanim, the second category is Chayos, and the third category is Srofim. Shekol ze nesave b'maimorei v'ruach piv yizborech. All of this was created through Hashem's statement, his utterance, v'ruach piv, and from the spirit of his mouth, of his lips, Yizborech came forth, and was created all of the above. V'im kain meribu v'gdulos hanivroyim, from the multitude within each category, and from the great and from the great creatures, i.e. the heaven and the hosts and all that. Yuvin dulos Einisav Baruch Hu. We understand how much more great the infinite Hashem is. Hu ha'mahaveh kol hanivroyim, because He's the creator. He's the creator of all creations. The heavens relate the honor of God. We have the Targum Yonasin on this verse. Quote, "The mistaklim b'shomaya," we gaze into the heaven, mishtayin yikorad Hashem, and you realize the dearness of Hashem. They relate. When you take the time to look at the heaven and the sun and the orbits and the stars and all of that, it brings you to the realization that the Eibishter is awesome and special and precious. Upeidish the mistaklin b'shmaya. What does it mean, mistaklin? It doesn't say re'i, it says mistaklin, to gaze. He says, Hu al derech, this is similar to the saying, Se'u mari beinechem uru'u mibara eile. Lift your eyes to heaven and see who created these. It says in Medrash Tilim on the verse, the heavens tell of the honor of God. Moshel, says the Medrash, this is a moshel, a gibor, to a very strong person. Shenichtus lamadina, he goes into a country, no one knows how strong he is. There was one pikeach. Pikeach means a shrewd fellow. Omar, he said, Min avna dehu misgoishesh bo atem yoidim yigurose. From the stone, from the rock that he plays with, he wrangles with, he wrestles with, atem yoidim yigurose, because he can kind of like even break a rock or melt, you know what I'm saying? He can make a dent in a rock. It's an expression. He's so powerful that he can actually take a stone and make something in it. Okay? That's a medrash. When you look at the heavens themselves bespeak the honor of Hashem. V'hainu. The Mekdoyle Hanivroim the Shemayim v'chol from the greatness of the creations of the heaven and all of their hosts. Ono Yoidim, we know from that Gedulas Esav Baruch Hu, the greatness of Hashem Shebara Esav. If Hashem Yoni can create a heaven, look behind me. The light is coming. The sun is coming out. Wow! Hashem is so much greater because He's the creator. And this is the meaning, the honor of God. This will be understood even deeper. What we mentioned just earlier from the Targum Yonasin. Through gazing Bashomayim into the heaven, Misaprim Yikora de Malka, it relates the preciousness of the King of Hashem, Shahainu. From the heaven and the host of the heaven, on the Yodim we know as Sof, the infinite level of God, Habilti Balgvul, who's infinite, Shelamayim is above and beyond, transcending the worlds. This is now understood by the verse, lift your eyes to heaven, and see, Mi bara Eila, who created all of this. In other words, who makes the hosts come out, exit. There is no diminishing of man, meaning of the species. There is no shinui, no change, and no interruption in the influence coming from God. In other words, like this. You might think, listen to this, you might think Hashem is infinite, Hashem is transcendental. When he created the hosts, heavens, the earth, and everything else, right? It makes a difference in him, right? Look at us. We're not supposed to be inside. There's differences. You're acting a little different, right? A change before, during, and after an experience for the normal creation makes a change. By Hashem, we say in the morning, Atohu Acheloi Nivroilam, Fi'atohu Mishenivroilam. You are the same God, pre-creation and after creation. There's no change. That's what it says here. V'hainu mashaloi yeshinui v'hefsek b'hashpah. The hashpah that Hashem is mashpia is not changed because of creation. What does this show? That what energy sustains the world and gives chayos to the world, it's what we call a koyach bilti gvul, an infinite koyach, a transcendental koyach. Because if it wasn't infinite and if it wasn't transcendental, it's impossible for it not to be impacted. That's what he says. If you look at the vitality itself that's invested in the world, since it's invested in a limited body, next page, Bilti Mugbul. It cannot be that the energy should be limitless. How can Bli Gvul be in Gvul? How can infinity be infinite? Kiyim, you must say, Behechrich, you must say, Shahachayis Gamke Mugbul. The amount of energy in the Guf, in the Gvul, is also Mugbal limited. So if that's the case, Hoya Nechlash Umishtana. There is a difference in the impact of the energy. It would be weakened and it would make a change. And then there would be some interruption and some change in the ashba. And the fact is, we see there is no interruption. All of these categories exist in category, right? In other words, the global warming is global warming, but there still is the sun. So in other words, the argument of Torah, the way Chasidus explains it, is that the category is not diminished whatsoever because of the change. We mean to say that even creatures here below, sheheim nifsadim, which in essence are nifsadim. What nifsadim means? They are, they lose, they're nifsad, they disintegrate. Mikol makim, nevertheless, lei nifsad min echad legamri. You won't find any category that's completely lost. So yes, people pass away, but mankind always exists. Yes, maybe there is something to some of global warming. Maybe, I don't know. But even if we argue there is, but the sun will never be destroyed. The moon will never be destroyed. V'harei hu efshari hahefsid. So the Rebbe says there's the possibility, efshari, of disintegration. V'lo mein nifsad legamri. So why don't they disintegrate completely? And the answer is because the Eibishter is Bli Gvul, transcendental. So in other words, the way God created and the way Hashem creates the existence as we know it is in a way of transcendence. So he put his transcendence into the overall creation, and therefore it will never disintegrate. We're going to stop here, and tomorrow Mitzvah will continue.
By the way, Rabbi Dalfin,
yeah.
The pasuk Se'u Mara Minechem, the Rosh Hashanah says that is Shema. It's a hisbonenus that you should dwell on when you say Shema Yisrael.
Right. Thank you. Yes. Everyone stay healthy, stay freilach, and we'll see everyone tomorrow. Sei gesund.